The 2020 presidential election is set to be one of the closest and ugliest in modern American history.
Donald Trump is corruption in the flesh.
You got a choice between Sleepy Joe and Crazy Bernie.
We cannot continue having a president who is a pathological liar.
Donald Trump, determined not to go down as a one-term president, is firing up his base. The Democrats are desperate to pick the candidate most likely to beat him. But how can they know who that is?
We cannot continue with Trump in the office of the President of the United States.
Poll after poll shows that the overriding priority for most Democrats is beating Donald Trump in the 2020 election.
Would this work against Trump? Could this beat Trump? Would this get Trump out of the White House?
Even if that candidate doesn't completely share their political views. Donald Trump is a stronger candidate than his low approval rating suggests.
Generally, incumbent presidents who are dealing with very strong economies are in almost unbeatable positions for re-election. He filed his re-election campaign paperwork the day he got sworn in. No president's ever done that. He's been running for re-election from day one.
Despite 3 years of political tumult, a lack of serious legislative accomplishments, and the impeachment trial, Donald Trump looks poised for a roughly 50-50 shot at re-election.
We will keep that beautiful, beautiful White House. We will keep it.
But those fighting to lead the Democrats are divided over what to offer Americans in Trump's place. You've got Joe Biden, the former vice president, Bernie Sanders, the Democratic socialist, Elizabeth Warren, the wonkish reformer, Pete Buttigieg, the former mayor, Michael Bloomberg, the self-made, self-funding billionaire, and Amy Klobuchar, the moderate Midwesterner. Candidates fight it out in a series of state primaries and caucuses to be the Democratic victor. Who could be Donald Trump's most forceful foe? The best place to start is to look at how Barack Obama won the presidency in 2008 and 2012.
Barack Obama won the presidency by creating a coalition that had never been created before.
We have the most diverse coalition of Americans that we've seen in a long, long time.
Barack Obama united a diverse range of groups.
They are black and white, Latino and Asian and Native American,
He brought in young, old,
rich and poor,
college-educated whites, and did well enough with white working-class voters.
It was part message, part motivation, part wanting to get past the 8 years of Bush, and he balanced somewhat liberal positions with a pragmatic streak as a candidate.
The so-called Obama coalition has taken on an almost mythical significance for Democrats. Hillary Clinton tried to replicate it in 2016 and failed.
Hillary Clinton lost support among African American voters, but they were, more importantly, less likely to turn out than they were in 2012. Her losses among white working-class voters in the Midwestern states were particularly harmful.
The right votes in the right places are what counts. In 2016, Hillary Clinton actually won the popular vote by almost 3 million. But she lost the election because in America, presidents aren't directly elected by the people who vote for them. Voters actually determine which candidate will get the support of their state in the electoral college process. The bigger the state's population, the more votes it has to decide the presidency. In almost every state, the party that wins the state's popular vote gets all of the state's electoral college votes.
Hillary Clinton won huge margins of voters in large states like New York and California.
Clinton won almost 2 million more votes than Trump in New York, which translated to her winning 29 electoral college votes.
She lost by slim margins in crucial states in the Midwest.
Clinton lost Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by nearly 78,000 votes, yet it cost her 46 electoral college votes and the election. The battle in 2020 will be played out in the same 3 states in the Midwest. Barack Obama was victorious in all 3 states in 2008 and 2012. Recreating the Obama coalition is still the Democrats' best bet to beat Trump.
It's a low-risk strategy that has proven successful in the past.
A majority of college-educated whites are almost guaranteed to vote for Democrats in 2020, whoever the candidate is. The real challenge is to appeal to the two groups that cost Clinton the presidency: working-class whites and African Americans.
Joe Biden performs well in primary polling among both African Americans and among white working-class voters. He is the candidate that's best placed to reassemble the Obama coalition.
While Joe Biden has enjoyed the most support from African Americans, his popularity with this group is falling.
It's questionable whether or not he could turn out non-whites and young voters who, frankly, aren't very enthused by his campaign, but have just supported him as a sort of default Obama-esque option in the primaries.
Biden is going to be defending Obama, and his ability to explain that record and defend it and compare it to Trump's is going to be what's going to decide the election in a Trump-Biden race. And I just don't think Biden is anywhere near as compelling a communicator as Obama was.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
If Joe Biden won't turn out the youth, could a younger candidate unlock the Obama coalition?
What a night!
Pete Buttigieg, former mayor of a mid-sized city in Indiana, enjoyed an unexpected primary surge. It's clear Joe Biden sees Pete Buttigieg as a threat, mocking his inexperience in a recent campaign ad.
Joe Biden helped save the auto industry, which revitalized the economy of the Midwest. Pete Buttigieg revitalized the sidewalks of downtown South Bend.
While some call Pete Buttigieg's charisma Obama-like, recreating Obama's coalition is likely to be out of reach for him.
Buttigieg has almost zero visible African-American support anywhere.
And Pete Buttigieg actually performs worse than Joe Biden with the young. His lack of support with key voters means Donald Trump would likely beat him in a general election. One moderate believes there's another way to build a coalition to beat Donald Trump. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar is foregoing Barack Obama's diverse coalition in favour of a simpler strategy. She's pinning all of her hopes on winning over the white working-class voters in the key states in the Midwest, on which the election hinges.
She represents a sort of middle ground, middle risk, middle reward strategy for the presidency, in which she simply wins well in the Midwest, which is crucial for the Electoral College, and thus wins the presidency.
Amy Klobuchar polls closely against Donald Trump in a theoretical matchup, and has a history of state victories to back up her campaign.
She's won in her state of Minnesota statewide elections for U.S. Senate by overwhelming margins, and she's won in rural areas, she's won in suburban areas, and she's won in urban areas. She truly understands the Midwest, and so I think she would automatically put Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin in play in a way no other candidate would.
Yet nationally among Democrats, Amy Klobuchar polls badly.
It's very hard to run for president and not be a national figure when you start. And because of that, she has had real trouble raising money and convincing donors and voters that she has a path to being the nominee.
Moderates Biden, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar are advocating for small repairs to improve America rather than revolution.
If you are tired of the extremes in our politics, you have a home with me.
Yet an extreme populist position is exactly what progressives Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are banking on for success. They have radical plans for the government and for a radically different coalition to get them there.
First, change the rules in Washington. 2, change the rules in our economy. Now let's go to the third one. Change the rules in our politics.
They think that they can juice turnout among white, young, disaffected, working-class voters.
The radicals argue these disaffected voters have been neglected by the Democrats for years. They're aiming to win them back with class struggle and economic populism.
I am prepared to stand with the working class of this country and take on the greed and corruption of the corporate elite.
Rather than the racial politics that Donald Trump has put at the forefront of his campaigns.
Local officials order police to release dangerous criminal aliens to prey upon the public.
Bernie Sanders' strength is drawn from voters who really want to blow up the system.
The young and the white working class are particularly embracing his approach.
Sanders is running fully on Medicare for all, fully on Green New Deal, fully on raising taxes in big government.
Are you ready for a political revolution?
It's a high-risk strategy, but could conceivably work.
If they can sell their transformative message, this strategy should not be underestimated.
Surprisingly, around 19% of Republicans have economically progressive views. If Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren succeed in making politics more about economics than race, some of these voters might be ripe for the picking by Democrats. Yet, their ideologically extreme positions may energize Donald Trump's supporters to go out and vote against them.
There are some big risks. The political science research tells us that a moderate candidate tends to do better in presidential elections, and that's because both they can pull some swing voters their way, and more importantly, they don't inflame the passions of the other party and get them to the polls.
Warren and Sanders are talking about tens of trillions of dollars of new spending, massive spending on all kinds of programs. You'll see Trump make Sanders or Warren appear very extreme in terms of their proposals.
I think he's a communist. I mean, look, I think of communism when I think of Bernie.
Sanders and Warren are betting that they'll be better prepared, better able to sell their populist message to the people. But in an era when Donald Trump has proven pretty capable of doing that already with anti-immigrant rhetoric, it is a hard sell indeed.
And the late entry of Michael Bloomberg, a New Yorker like Trump, a businessman like Trump, and much, much richer than Trump, is unsettling the president.
He doesn't have the magic to do well. Little Michael will fail.
I'm a New Yorker. I know how to take on an arrogant con man like Donald Trump.
He could spend $1 or $2 billion in the general election, basically evening out that financial advantage that Trump will have as the incumbent.
Yet Michael Bloomberg's ability to deliver a Trump-beating strategy, like every other candidate's, appears flawed.
Allegations tonight of sexism against Michael Bloomberg.
Bloomberg is now a target, defending his controversial police policy of stop and frisk.
With no perfect candidate, the Democrats' best strategy is to keep voters focused on Donald Trump's failings, rather than their own.
If it ends up being a referendum, do you like Trump or not like Trump? Trump can be beat. If it is a choice between what Trump's presenting and what the Democrats are offering, that's where Trump has a good chance to get reelected.
Hello, I'm John Prideaux. I'm The Economist's US editor. To keep up to date with all our coverage of the 2020 presidential election, please sign up to our Checks and Balance newsletter. There's a link to do that opposite. It'll arrive in your inbox every Friday with a selection of stories from The Economist and some other good stuff in there too. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.